Go away. Okay, we're at 6 o'clock and we have a quorum. So I'm going to call to order the meeting of April 5th, 2022 of the City of West Sacramento Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Services Commission. It is 6 p.m. and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order number 29-20 and 29-20, members of the West Sacramento Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Services Commission and staff will participate in this meeting via teleconference. To reduce the spread of COVID-19, members of the public are asked to watch the meeting telecast on Wave Cable Channel 20 and to have submitted comments in writing by 5 p.m. on April the 5th. I'm reading from an old script. April the 5th, 2022. Clerk of the commission, would you call the attendance roll, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Ahmad?
Present.
Commissioner Altamirano?
Present.
Commissioner Castro?
Present.
Commissioner Horwitz?
Unmuting and present.
Thank you. Commissioner Chappell?
Here.
And Vice Chair Reed.
Present.
And we did confirm that Chair Jans was not able to join this evening.
Thank you.
We have a quorum.
Do we have any matters not on the agenda that the public wishes to comment upon? Charlotte Dorsey from BBCAN or whomever else you are representing tonight. You wear many hats in our community. We thank you and welcome you. Please give us your comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I received the last newsletter from the Recreation Center, or from the Senior Center. It's called the Senior Scoop. It's the April-June issue, and I want to tell you it's the best newsletter I have ever received from that department. It's comprehensive, it's beautiful, it's got a wonderful blog on the first page that one of the staff wrote. And I hope you continue sending it. If you haven't received a copy, I urge you to get on their email list. But it's a beautiful newsletter. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I'm sure that staff appreciates hearing that as well. For the public, any of the public that are listening, there is a place on the website, I believe, the city website, where you can sign up to receive the newsletter. Is that correct, Tracy?
I was just checking. I think there is. I will look and see if I can't put it in the chat or share it verbally during this meeting once I find it.
Just cut in when you find it. That would be great. Okay, I'm going to switch now to the agenda. And I believe that the first item is to select commission chair and vice chair. And that was actually supposed to be before the presentation of public comment. But I would like to suggest and hear the commissioners' feelings about, given that Commissioner Jans, who is our current chair, is not present, whether the commission would like to move this item to our next meeting, which will be in 2 months. Another option is to make nominations and then to hold them over until the next meeting. What is the preference of the commissioner?
I'm for moving it to the next meeting, just so you can be present.
Is that with or without nominations on the table today?
I would say without nomination today.
Okay. Other commissioners have points of view? Sasha?
Hi,
Commissioner Horowitz. So,
thank you. Thank you. I feel the exact same way as Commissioner Altamirano. I think it would make sense to push this to the next meeting, including the nomination at the next.
are there any objections to moving this item to the next meeting? Commissioner Satchel.
Just a point of rules or legalese. Does somebody have to be present at a meeting to be nominated? I don't think so. Okay. So I think we can, in fact, open nominations and make a decision this evening. We do have a quorum, so I don't think we really need to put it off for any reason. If somebody wants to be vice chair or chair, now would be a good time to be nominated and be considered. So I would like to just go forward.
Okay, and other commissioners? Commissioner Ahmad?
I'm indifferent, but I guess out of courtesy for Commissioner Jans, I was thinking if he wants to nominate someone, he'd have that opportunity if we move it to the next meeting. That's the only kind of point I see in moving it to the next meeting, really. But I can go either way.
Well, since we're not in seeming agreement, I'm going to ask if a commissioner would like to offer. The item is on the agenda. Proceed. So it would take a motion to postpone it at this point, and a second. So other than myself, is there someone who wishes to propose a motion to delay nomination and election of officers this evening?
I'll motion to delay nomination and selection of officers until the next meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Altamirano, second. And is there any further discussion? Seeing none, may we have a roll call of the vote?
Commissioner Ahmad?
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano?
Aye.
Commissioner Castro? Verbal from
You're
Castro?
muted, Commissioner Castro, you're muted.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Horowitz?
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel?
Aye.
And Vice Chair Reed?
Aye.
Thank you.
The measure passes unanimously, and so we will hold that agenda item until the next meeting of the commission. Now, I would like to proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is commissioner communications. Do we have comments from the commissioners on their activities or any announcements they wish to make? Commissioner Ahmad?
Yeah, I wanted to point out that Friday commenced the month of Ramadan for Muslims. I'm Muslim, so I'm fasting, and there'll be a lot of your colleagues and coworkers and neighbors and friends around town who are Muslim and are fasting for the next month. So folks who are not familiar with it, it's a lot like Lent, where instead of giving up one thing, Muslims give up food and drink during the daylight hours. So at 7:30 tonight, during sunset, I will, if the meeting is still in procession, I will have to pause and have a sip of water or something. And so you might not see me for a minute. I wanted to announce that, but also just to also let folks know that, you've got people in the community who are doing this, even children. My 7-year-old did it one day. It was really hard, but he did it. And So, and then the other thing I wanted to point out was the goats are in town and they're wonderful, and they're across the street from my house in the last 2 days, and just I think seeing them up close and personal, there's a lot of work that goes in those goats, and so whoever the manager, owner, whoever it is, I wanted to praise the city and those folks for their partnership, because they're a lot of fun to watch, but they're hard workers. Those goats do a lot of work around town, keeping the like the bush down. So yeah, I wanted to point that out. So that's what I wanted to report on.
Thank you, and thank you for that information. Are there other commissioners who have communication? Commissioner Schatzel.
I have two things. Thank you. First, I was able to attend the California Park and Recreation Society tour of a variety of parks when they had their annual conference in Sacramento, must be about a month ago now. And one of the stops was at Heritage Oaks Park, and Tracy and the staff and HLA and everybody did a great job presenting the park and the entire project to a lot of people from different agencies in the state. So it made the made the city look great, made the agency look great, the department look terrific. So I was glad to be able to attend that. Also, there's a park maintenance worker. He was working Saturday evening. His name is has a weekend duty. He was phenomenal. Two of the goats, speaking of goats, two of my neighbor's goats got out, and he was driving from one park to another, which they do on the weekends, right? But he stopped and he put the goats back where they belong, and then they got out again, and then you put them back again. And we have a friend was walking their dog, and then they called us, and so we went around, and Matthew was there, and he tied the fence, he put everything back together. He didn't have to do that because the weekend guys, I mean, they drive, you don't have to get from this park to this park and clean it up, and they've got a lot to do. But I thought that was just tremendous customer service to try to help a neighbor, try to help somebody in town, because he didn't have to. He could have just driven by. Yeah, I got places to go. And he didn't. He told me his last name 3 times. And by the time I got from the goats home, I forgot his last name. So the best I can do at this moment is Matthew. And he did a terrific job. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thanks. And I know Jason is on the call. So find Matthew. Saturday, whoever was working Saturday, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 o'clock. He did a great job. So thanks.
Yeah, Matt's awesome. I can't say enough about him. So I'll definitely send your praise his way.
Yeah, he did a great job. The goats are still there. The neighbors were gone all weekend. So he saved them. They did good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that information. We love our Park and Recreation staff. And are there other communications by the commissioners to share? Seeing none, I'd like to move to our guest. The next item on the agenda is the presentation by the Meals on Wheels new executive director, Joy Cohan.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I still get new. I've actually been here 1/4 of the year already. It's gone by pretty fast.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think there's a new executive director at NAMI. And so now I'm in some meetings where she gets to be the new executive director. So I've already been replaced, but, and it feels a little bit like a reunion because I think I started my day on Zoom with you, Suzanne, in the Food Security Coalition meeting. And Charlotte, I'm often bumping into you as well at YOLO Healthy Aging Alliance Zooms, and also with the West Sacramento Accountable Communities of Health, which I'm very proud that Meals on Wheels is now a member of.
Recording in progress.
Saved for posterity. Okay. So, and I want to thank Paul, especially, and Tracy for having me here today, and Katie for your coordination efforts. Yeah, I've been here 3 months, and I've been engaged in a pretty quick study of, frankly, a SWOT analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats here at Meals on Wheels, Yolo County. I came here from Yolo Food Bank, where I was for just about 4 years as the Director of Philanthropic Engagement. So I am acquainted with the food security space. And I think that's really one of the big takeaways is that Meals on Wheels, it was kind of doing what it could do with the resources that was coming its way, but not really embracing its role as a food security organization, specifically for the senior population. And so that's one amongst many, transformational efforts underway at Meals on Wheels right now, is to fully embrace that, to really look forward to what can we do to maximize our service to the community. And I'm going to share a little bit with you now about the status quo and where we're going moving forward. Just a little bit of a time check so I don't, take up all your time tonight. How much time's allocated on the agenda for this presentation?
We don't have a time allocated, and we have a rather short agenda today.
Okay.
So
you want me to drone on and on? Just fill all the space.
Exactly.
No. All right. I just wanted to make sure, I'm
familiar with your presentation, and so I know that you have plenty of time to present it and take some questions
and take some questions. All right. Yeah, I won't go a mile a minute then. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen here, hopefully successfully. It's always still a mystery to me how this all works. All right, you're hopefully all seeing a screen that says Operation Accelerate at the top, driving change. Perfect. So when I came on board, I think I was just reviewing some materials actually about an hour ago that reminded me of this. I think it was my 4th day on the job that actually Nolan Sullivan from Yolo County Health and Human Services came to me and said, hey, American Rescue Plan funding, your predecessor turned in some info, and maybe you want to have a second look. And I did have a second look and made some adjustments to our request, which was, I want to acknowledge, was funded, and we're very grateful for that. But it was from there that Operation Accelerate was born. I truly believe that, labeling something, putting a name on something, it's very helpful to people really understanding your intentions about where you're going. Why do you need this equipment? Why do you need funds for these staff members or this new program or initiative? So Operation Accelerate was born in my first week on the job in that interaction with Nolan. And it really has come to really, I don't know, like I said, put a label on all of the hopes and dreams of the organization. So status snapshot, and even in the short period of time, I want to say, since I finalized this presentation and submitted it to Paul and Katie back on March 24th, which wasn't all that long ago, we actually have a terrific update. It says at the top, approximately 380 seniors served, and that's countywide. Actually, we've surpassed 400 in the month of March when we did our March totals for our reporting. So that's very exciting. It's a small increase, but really indicative of where we're trying to go with Operation Accelerate, which is to double the service in the county. We realize even at 400, where we stand today, actually it's like 405, I think. We're underperforming and we're underserving. Food security in Yolo County and in West Sacramento in particular, food insecurity, I should say, is very much an issue. And then you look at the senior population, and even more so. There's about 41,000 seniors, people who are defined as roughly 60 or 65 and over in Yolo County. When you kind of layer that with the poverty rate in Yolo County, that's about 19, almost 20%. When you consider that, the poverty rate amongst seniors is probably bigger than that, well, it doesn't, you don't have to be a mathematician to realize that, yes, at even 400, we're very much underserving the true need that's out there. So Operation Accelerate is really aiming to double that number in the coming year. Say by this time next year, we hope to be serving at least about 800 people. And while that's still going to leave a lot of, just barely scratch the surface of the need out there, it's going to be a monumental undertaking for our organization to basically take what we do and double it. So it's a worthy challenge and one that my staff is very much embracing. So getting into the details with the city by city or area by area figures, as we've increased by even just 20 meals, about 1/4 of that entire uplift, or actually more like about 1/3 of it, has taken place in West Sacramento. So now we're actually at a point where the West Sacramento figure actually tops the Woodland Knights Landing Esparto figure. The only reason we have Woodland, Knights Landing, and Esparto all paired together is because all of that activity from the volunteer delivery standpoint is emerging from our Woodland hub, which right now are our offices in Woodland. Our hub in West Sacramento is Riverbend Manor, where there's some low-income senior housing, and there's, I think it was, I've been told by many people, it used to be a school site in West Sacramento, and so that what was the auditorium is essentially where we used to serve congregant meals, and hopefully will at some point in the future again. But for now, this is where our food that is cooked in Woodland, and all food for Meals on Wheels is cooked in Woodland, and then disseminated to the 4 hubs countywide. So the food cooked in Woodland is brought to West Sacramento. It is rewarmed there or kept cool, depending on the nature of the items, packaged for delivery to individual doorsteps. And then the volunteers come and access the food there to take on the routes and return there after their routes to return the equipment. So at this point, West Sacramento's numbers are the largest in our program. We also have a program called Weekend Food Project. These are about 150 of the very most low-income individuals who are part of our program. So they're a subset of that 400. When we're really looking to increase this number by at least 50 or 100 in the year to come. But this is the last weekend of the month. A few days ahead of that, we're bringing mainly shelf-stable items, some fresh fruit, with the intention that folks who are dependent on a Social Security check or other income that comes in at the first of the month, they may be super low on funds when you get to that last weekend of the month. And these are easily prepared shelf-stable meals that can be done in a microwave. Very little need to stand in the kitchen very long. These meals are to get them by until they get their checks at the beginning of the next month, and also when our service begins on the weekdays again. So that's happening right before the last weekend of the month. Back to the 400 people and the meals. We are right now providing 5 meals a week through 3 deliveries a week. So on Mondays, it's a fresh hot meal and a frozen meal. The frozen meals are also prepared locally in our kitchen in Woodland. They're not purchased from some, corporation somewhere as some other Meals on Wheels programs do in other counties. But it's a fresh and a frozen on Mondays. It's a fresh only on Wednesdays, and then on Thursday, a fresh and a frozen again. So we are hopeful to bring congregant back in the months to come, but there is a lot of caution amongst the senior services community around this. And I'll be honest, it will take some effort to come back with a congregant. So when we do it, we want to be sure it's going to stick around for a while. But we are very hopeful, since the secondary objective of our program, in addition to food security, is to provide socialization, combat isolation, and so forth. So I've talked about Operation Accelerate, and hey, we're going to double what we do as an organization. And that is a monumental undertaking. So to prepare for that, I put a lot of thought into what it means to be a high-performing nonprofit. And I've been very inspired over time by some programs that I've participated in for nonprofit capacity building through Sacramento Region Community Foundation. There's an organization that they work with called Third Plateau, a gentleman named Jonathan Kaufman, who's just very inspiring. So I participated actually in a program called The Lab with them when I was at YOLO Food Bank still. And really just frankly was career changing for me, but really changes up how nonprofits really need to perceive themselves in order to do their very best work, meet their missions, be visionary, and have real impact that lead to great outcomes in the community. So, hey, if I'm going to be here, this is the kind of organization Meals on Wheels Yolo County needs to be. So I have spent a lot of time talking with my staff and my board about some of the concepts here on this slide, really thinking about the outcomes that we seek as a result of the work that we're doing. That we're really looking to improve and stabilize physical and mental health among the senior population, particularly those with limited mobility. We're looking to enhance the opportunity to age in place for people to remain in their own homes as long as it's safe for them to do so. The behaviors that we embrace as an organization, both staff and volunteers, the behaviors that we embrace in delivering these services is to have an empathetic approach. All day long, there's all kinds of things in how we perform our work that, there's what's convenient for us as staff members, or maybe what's more convenient for a volunteer. But when you really put yourself in the shoes of the senior who may not have enough to eat because they don't have enough money to buy the food, and or they can't get to the store to buy the food, and they have no one to help them. Well, when you think about whatever it is from that person's point of view, from that standpoint, man, pretty quickly, you know what's the right way to go with any decision that you're faced with. And that's really important with the population that we're working with. We've also been talking about adopting an innovative outlook, testing assumptions, pivoting when necessary, scaling, experimenting. Sometimes, we'll try something and feel like, oh no, that's not the way to go, but not being afraid to try new things, investing, elevating. So, in this area, there's a few things I could point to, such as we recently introduced vegetarian meals. And it's interesting, Commissioner Ahmed was talking about Ramadan. When I arrived in January, I said, hey, this is great. We have this menu we publish. What if someone calls, how often do people call and say, I can't eat that meal for a dietary reason, a cultural reason, a religious reason? I mean, I myself, I'm Jewish. I'm very sensitive to the fact that, there's certain foods that people don't eat. So I said, what happens when somebody calls and they can't have the meal for any reason? I said, well, they just don't get a meal that day. And that didn't seem right. Back to the empathetic approach. So I said, hey, what can we do that's pretty easy to pull off that would combat that? And we came up with the idea of the frozen vegetarian meals, because 99% of all dietary problems, I'm convinced, are solved by vegetarian meals. Maybe it's because I'm a vegetarian. But so now we have, when people call and for any reason they can't eat, don't want to eat that meal that's on the menu, we can send them a veggie meal. So that's just the beginning of things that we're talking about, experimenting with, just sort of seeing how we can create change in some pretty low, ways that don't require a whole ton of investment on our part, just some rethinking about how we do things. Slide. So I said I'd done a SWOT analysis. So as I did that and thinking about us working to become an outcomes-based, high-performing nonprofit, some of the strengths I've assessed here in my first quarter on the job. We have loyal, inspired staff and volunteers. I have put forth a lot of change since I came to the organization 3 months ago, and the staff has been amazing around that, and really such a great willingness to do whatever it takes to do the right thing for seniors and to do more for more seniors. The volunteers, we can't do what we do without them. The vast majority of our delivery routes, and we have 40 of them right now, and you can just imagine that's going to be growing as we're serving more seniors. They are mostly volunteer-driven routes. We have a very few staff-driven routes, but most of them are volunteers. We're absolutely dependent on them as our lifeblood. Organization-wide change is desired and embraced, is what I related with the staff, but also with the volunteers. There's a huge community respect for our mission. And that leads to, people want to see Meals on Wheels Yolo County succeed. And I feel that from talking with groups like yours, speaking with civic leaders, elected officials, donors, volunteers. Everybody wants to see this be the kind of nonprofit it needs to be to serve an important mission. But there's challenges. Staff stability. That was a huge problem. I think we're making great strides. Our staff was frankly just so undercompensated. When I first arrived in January, we had some folks on staff making as little as $14 an hour, and that was even just a recent increase to keep pace with legal requirements. Since that time, I've done a lot of work with my board around this, and beginning April 1, the other day, there's no staff member at Meals on Wheels Yolo County who makes less than $17.50 an hour, which according to the MIT calculator is a living wage in Yolo County. So, but not only did we raise up sort of the minimum wage at Meals on Wheels, that meant restructuring the entire compensation structure all the way up so that we have people making at least the minimum for what would be a market rate for their type of work. We had to do that, first of all, to create stability amongst the staff members we have, but also so we can be competitive in the recruitment marketplace. To do the kind of work we're doing, we need the best and the brightest. And we need to be competitive with compensation in order to attract them to the work that we're doing. We needed to introduce, in some cases, and fully embrace technology to do what we need to do. There was a lot of siloed activity going on, a lot of pen and paper stuff, things being done once, twice, 3 times over by 3 different people in different ways, because there really wasn't an understanding how could we have a shared drive and work on collaborative documents and get information from remote sites to other people in an efficient, effective way. So we are continually identifying efficiencies and acting upon those to save time, to save money, so that hopefully we can just do more. And so these are, in some ways, these are kind of the boring things, right? This isn't making food and getting food to people, but these are building blocks behind being able to execute fully on all levels with that kind of activity. Philanthropic uplift and increased awareness. There's really not, I'm working on it, but there's really not a, development or fundraising function that's really well defined. At Meals on Wheels Yolo County, there's a direct mail program. Some of you may get those direct mailers. Those aren't maybe the best representation of who and what we strive to be, what we aim to be here. So we're working on that as well. Funding wise, our major funder is the Agency on Aging Area 4. That said, we have a $2 million a year annual budget, and they provide about 19% of it. So we're very, very dependent on private philanthropy for the rest of what we do. And so we do need more focus on fundraising and philanthropic uplift. Systems coordination improvements, this really kind of goes hand in hand with the technology, although technology isn't a part of all the systems coordination and improvements that were needed. But that was an area that I identified that we're still chipping away at. And then, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. That's always, a unknown. Just as I was mentioning with the hopeful return to congregant meals. We're never really sure when COVID-19 is going to throw us for a loop. In fact, it was in my first days on the job that Omicron became, we had a big surge and we had to deal with that. Now things are looking a little rosier, but yeah, we never know what curveball that's going to throw our way. But okay, back to, now we can breathe easy. There's opportunities, right? We absolutely have the opportunity here to nourish more seniors and more mobility challenged individuals. And we're all super excited about that. I mean, when we saw our March numbers, we're like, yay, we're serving 20 more people. And it may sound like a small number, but we really celebrate this at Meals on Wheels and look forward to doing more in this regard. The opportunity to provide choice, such as what I was describing earlier, but to go even beyond that. Like, okay, veggie meal substitutions are great, but What if there's just people who want a vegetarian meal every day? What if we offered 2 menu choices every day? There's a vegetarian and a meat-based meal. So we're looking forward to doing that. Elevating the nutritional quality. We actually had a meeting about 2 weeks ago with YOLO Food Bank to talk about availing ourselves of more of what they have to offer, particularly in terms of fresh produce, and to help us also access items we use quite often for far less than what we're paying right now in Cisco bills. And, the stuff that comes from Cisco is highly processed, high sodium, nutritional value isn't near what it could be when we start with fresh foods. So we're looking to create collaborations and partnerships throughout the county that will help us to elevate. Improve outreach and equity enhancement. So this outreach, we're actually about to launch a trilingual outreach campaign. We finally figured out how to get our Russian translation done. And it's not just about Russian translation, right? I mean, you can put a flyer out in Russian, but if you have no way to speak with the people when they call back in, that's a problem. So that's the part we had to really work on, but we have a solution now that we're very excited about. So we expect by mid-month that we will be rolling out with outreach in English, Spanish, and Russian, and that's going to hopefully help us elevate the numbers as we're talking about per Operation Accelerate. We're also building collaborations with other organizations. We are looking at probably a June launch of a collaboration with YOLO Adult Day Health. They've kind of come to the conclusion as they're welcoming people back for services that, hey, what we do best is engage folks during the day. Maybe, meals aren't really our thing, but Meals on Wheels, hey, that's your thing. So we're going to be providing the midday meal for their participants starting in June. A very exciting collaboration, and I'm looking to create more collaborations of that sort. So, in this model where we're doubling what we do, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to double the doorsteps, right? Or even, adding in terms of a traditional congregate setting. It means we can be innovative, because I had that innovative word earlier. We can be innovative in how we're reaching the seniors who need us countywide. Equity enhancement, I look at that 2 different ways. There's equity surely in terms of, cultural, religious backgrounds and so forth, and making sure that we're offering foods that are the appropriate foods culturally and religiously. But I also look at equity in terms of equity around the county. Right now we're doing, of the job that we're doing a good job in the 4 incorporated cities, less so in the rural areas. And so we're already looking at ways to, just as with the veggie meals, kind of look at what's the simplest down and dirty way, for lack of a better way to put it, that we can start getting food to seniors in Clarksburg and to seniors in Dunnigan. So we're thinking about, for instance, having 1 delivery a week of all frozen meals. Not the ideal. We'd love to be taking fresh hot, and we're striving for that. But how can we do something sooner versus later that starts to chip away at the needs? We're also looking at kitchen space in different areas. That's one of the ways I first connected with Paul and Tracy, that eventually will make it on a temperature control and a public health level easier for us to deliver to these rural areas. So for instance, in West Sacramento, that would enable us to serve Clarksburg more so. We're looking at strategic resource generation. So like I said, we're really trying to elevate a development function, have sound stewardship around the dollars we get from the Agency on Aging Area 4, from the American Rescue Plan. We do have dollars that have already been allocated for us, but there's even more that we're in a collaboration to talk about the allocation of those. And then other ongoing and one-time funding opportunities. One thing that's been really explored here at Meals on Wheels is corporate grantors, the banks, the healthcare organizations that all have to give away their money. Those kinds of grants really haven't been sought in the past, and that's actually a strength I bring from my time at the food bank that I'm starting to line up those relationships for Meals on Wheels as well. and to form and engage in partnerships and collaborations that complement and advance the work. So I gave the YOLO Adult Day Health example. I know that there's an Adult Day Health program, I think in West Sacramento, that Paul and Tracy made me aware of, that perhaps might be an opportunity. I've reached out to RISE out in the western part of the county to talk about opportunities there with their senior program. And there's probably more opportunities, some of which maybe all of you will be happy to tell me about as you might think of them. So Operation Accelerate, driving senior nutrition in Yolo County in 2022, probably into 2023 as well, to reach our aspirational goals. So the 4 cornerstones: building capacity, building operational fortitude, serving more seniors with more meals, doubling our service, and to do so more nutritiously and more equitably in terms of both reach and place. This is an example of the outreach materials. Obviously, we don't have the Russian example here yet, but these are the outreach materials. We're actually looking to do a flyer that's probably English with the image there on one side, and then on the back side, all the same text, but in Spanish and in Russian. Looking to get this out everywhere we possibly can. I suspect that many of you, again, may have connections and resources that we can avail ourselves of. Obviously, we'll be working through the Food Bank and YOLO Healthy Aging Alliance, through County HHSA, through my West Sacramento ACH relationship, but very interested in ideas you all may have around this as well. And like I said, probably mid-month we'll have this ready. So we're accelerating and speeding ahead to drive the Meals on Wheels Yolo County mission. Investment is required. As I said, my board of directors are heroes. We only have 1 member from West Sacramento. We need more, and we definitely need a Winters member. We have no one from Winters, but we're building the board as well. But investment is required. And yeah, it's my board's owning up for investment, but it's going to take community investment. Again, it's about 80% private philanthropy, and it's those hundreds of volunteers that are needed to do what we do. So there's investment needed from everyone, everywhere. And perseverance. There's going to be setbacks along the way as we strive for great things, but we can't let that hold us back or think, we can't do it. Our staff, our volunteers in the community around us has to believe. And why should we do it? Well, these folks are worth it. They need the services that we're offering. And that concludes the formal part of my presentation. So thank you very much. And I'd be happy to answer questions. I see there's a couple of reminder to allow time for Q&A. Hopefully I'm doing that.
That's great. Yeah, we don't really use the chat for in the public forum, Joyce. So anyone that has a question, please raise your hand. I just will remind everyone that Intergenerational Services is part of the Parks and Recreation Commission jurisdiction. So this is a really important element of our mission. We are a livable city by declaration, and we are also by declaration a compassionate city. And I also wanted to mention that Joy and I meet so often because she's taking the collaboration part of her effort really seriously. And so Meals on Wheels is not operating in a vacuum. And the more and more we can connect all of the resources that serve these particular populations, low income and mobility challenged and access challenged to nutritious food, we're working together in Yolo County to see if we can make a seamless integrated system. So Commissioner Schatzel, you had your hand up.
I did. Thank you. 2 things. One, I'm glad Meals on Wheels continues to go to the Riverbend Senior Manor. When the city built its new senior center many years ago, there's a lot of discussion about shutting that facility down and expecting those seniors to go to the new site. So I'm glad you're still there. Every time I go and I see Charlotte and I see the Historical Society, there's a number of people there and they're looking forward to the meal. So I'm glad you're there. one other thing, I brought this up with the YOLO Food Bank, and I know there's laws, but it is outrageous to me how many hungry people we have, and yet schools every day throw away enormous amounts of prepackaged, unopened. It's fruit, it's vegetables, it's milk. And I know there's laws and I know there's all that stuff, but it's just every single school in Yolo County. And I just spent a week in a hospital and they do the same thing. They just throw it away. And, you know, the YOLO Food Bank people tell me, well, you know, it's volunteers and we can't, but it's really sad. The need is so enormous that you pointed out in your report, right? That there's got to be a way somehow change the laws. I mean, I don't know all the details about what it takes. There's just too many hungry people to throw all that stuff away. So I'm off my soapbox. Thank you. And I'm glad
it's very timely, actually. Suzanne and I, when we were on the other Zoom this morning, for the Food Security Coalition, there was a presentation by Bill Schoen, who's a consultant who's been working with YOLO Food Bank and on some level, well, I think with the city of West Sacramento, I think he was the SB 1383 consultant, or still is, for the city of West Sacramento as well. And so, yeah, there is a law that's trying to make strides for climate change reasons and also for food security reasons around, recovering edible food. So once a package has been opened, yeah, that's a problem in terms of redirection, and that actually comes at a different phase of SB 1383. But the tier 1 phase, where perfectly good food packaged is going into landfills, that's what is actually law right now, that's supposed to be recovered by an organization with the capacity to do so. So, I can say from having worked at YOLO Food Bank that they've been very engaged in that space. There's some funding issues right now that are trying to be ironed out. But they've been very active in that space. And of course, as a nonprofit partner of YOLO Food Bank, Meals on Wheels YOLO County stands to benefit from, those programs and plans and funding being fully activated. So you're definitely, you have a very timely topic there, Dawn. And we're hopeful that it is a crime, and to think that it's causing pollution in the environment too. It's all insane. So hopefully we can all make strides in that direction. But thanks, Don.
Yeah, Commissioner Altamirano, you have your hand up.
Commissioner Schatzel mentioned this, I think, the last meeting about general needs for seniors as far as housework and things like that. And I came across somebody that's kind of not related to Meals on Wheels, but I could see this as being a vehicle to survey those people that have those needs. This particular lady had something that went out on her house, and she's getting priced outrageous prices. And with inflation these days and being on a fixed budget, it just seemed like there's got to be a better solution. And maybe not Meals on Wheels is the way to survey it, but I did notice that a couple of years back there used to be a seniors resource fair that the county did. I was wondering if that's a good tie-in to get these people aware of what the city can do for them. And I think Commissioner Reed, you had a lot of input on the subject, so I was just curious if that could be added to the website, or that's something as commissioners we can help with.
My response is yes. Not only was there a senior resource fair, but there's Sacramento specifically held a senior resource fair that Charlotte Dorsey, who's with us today, is very active in. Of course, COVID has took most of our social occasions away, but as I mentioned, the Livable Cities report, perhaps on a future agenda, Tracy, we could perhaps have a little update on where we are with that. At some point, there was a discussion of whether we needed to update it. And especially for our new commissioners who haven't been exposed to our work in the aging and adult services lane, it might be helpful to have a bit of a briefing on that. There was also at one point a person that we in the aging and adult services field we call navigator, where people could kind of check in and see where can I go for this or that service. So there are some ways that we attempt to help this population access services and socializations, and a lot of them got knocked off track by COVID, but hopefully we can rebuild and take a look at where we are and what the status is and how we can move forward in that area. Commissioner Castro.
Hi, thank you, Joy, for your presentation. I had a quick question on the flyer that you shared with us. I would like to share it to our local churches in our area. Can you find that? Can I find that on the website? I believe we have the link.
Not yet, because we're still working on the Russian, the version that has the Russian. We just want to have one flyer that covers all the languages. We don't have to keep like divvying them up between this entity and that one. But yeah, I will be happy if you want to drop your email into the chat. I would be, or I don't know if that's allowed, but if you were to connect with me somehow, I would be happy to reconnect with you about getting these out. I absolutely believe the faith-based community is a great way to get these out. So I would appreciate that. And, I did want to mention in terms of what Commissioner Altamirano was mentioning, we absolutely all the time, are happy to be a conduit for communications that are appropriate for the senior population that we serve. So, if there's some program or something that, and we just had one go out, or we have one going out tomorrow for the Alzheimer's Association. So, we would be happy to do that as things might come together. I'll also mention that I had an interaction with someone with the city of West Sacramento very recently about some sort of a bag giveaway for senior resources that's going to happen in May, and got some info to folks.
Sounds like Charlotte. Looks like Charlotte has information on that. If she can be given the microphone, Katie.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was going to meet with Christine Prater this week, and we were talking about the bags. So
that's who I talked to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with respect to the flyers, Joy, perhaps if you provide those to Tracy, she would send them to all the commissioners, and they could disseminate them to all the commissioners through their various channels and organizations to give people that information.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Commissioner Ahmad.
Thank you. I also wanted to express my gratitude, Joy, for the presentation. And I particularly was very pleased with your attention to detail, regarding people being plant-based or faith-based and having restrictions on diets. I'm both, so I understand, like, so many times, it's frustrating when you come across a very good and noble service, and there's exclusion, not because of any bad intention, it just happens.
Right.
So I hate that very much. And I guess I don't have any particular questions. I guess I'm piggybacking off of what Commissioner Castro mentioned with the services, and more so because my own father-in-law just moved to West Sacramento. He's an 83-year-old man, and just it's the first time I'm thinking about all the things that he can't do living on his own.
Right.
So I have definitely a sensitive and soft spot for seniors, because you don't realize it until obviously you're in the position or caring for somebody.
Right.
With how difficult meals can be and how difficult day-to-day chores for somebody who might have hip issues, or and then I think we had a sewage issue. And when I spoke with someone from the city, he was very helpful, and he actually mentioned, he's like, we're not allowed to give preferred vendors because that's just not what city does. But he's like, I do know that some people around, some vendors around town will our contractors will take advantage of seniors, which is, I'm sure it's no shock to any of you. But I was like, is there a way for the city or for any service to kind of give a preferred contractors list to seniors who, for instance, maybe are who can afford it but don't know where to go for somebody that is honest and can take care of their needs. Again, not really I don't know how that would work in terms of businesses and whatever, but it's just hard to navigate, I think. And I'm sure it's harder when you're aging and trying to navigate a landscape which is very technical. There's so many apps and things, and like I took care of the thing for my father-in-law, and I'm like, oh wow, like this would have been harder for him to manage because like I had to pay through Venmo. I had to go through apps to get this service, and I'm like, oh, this is really hard. So again, I feel sheepish that I hadn't thought about these things until it happened to my own family member, but I certainly appreciate all the things that you all are doing, and like you mentioned, being a conduit for other things that could come up in the life of a senior. So thank you.
We're happy to do that. We're happy to do that.
Any further questions or comments from commissioners? I don't see any. And thank you, Joy, for being our special guest today. It was a very complete and thorough presentation. We look forward to seeing the flyers, and hopefully everyone will disseminate that through their channels as they are able. And with that, if Tracy could provide your contact information for all the commissioners so they can reach out to you directly, I think that we'll continue our relationship, and I know I'll see you. I know I'll see you again. So,
before long, yeah, for
exactly.
sure.
Someplace
all right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. Have a great rest of your meeting. Take good care.
Thank you. We're going to move on now to the minutes. Does anyone have any comments or corrections on the minutes for the meeting for our last meeting, whatever meeting that was? Any questions or comments? I think the meeting was February 1st, 2022, if I'm reading correctly. There are no corrections or comments. Madam Clerk, do I need a motion to approve the minutes, or is it on the consent? So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Will a commissioner offer me one?
A motion.
Thank you. Is that Commissioner Altamirano with the motion and Commissioner Ahmad with the second? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Thank you, Commissioner Ahmad.
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Horwitz.
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reed.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. And now we have our regular agenda item, update on Parks and Recreation Department major projects and programs. Tracy Michael.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reed, members of the commission. This item is an update on our department projects and programs over the next few years, and is really in response to questions I've received from commission members more recently about what we're working on and how we determine our projects and programming. I don't really have a very long presentation at all, but as referenced in the agenda report, the 2019 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan is really our guiding document for identifying priority projects and programs, along with the City Council's annual strategic planning process and their other guiding policy documents, such as the general plan, our bike ped and trails master plan. We have site-specific plans like our Bees Lakes Habitat Conservation Plan and many other related planning efforts that we work to coordinate and develop projects. We did develop guidelines for how we prioritize projects, and that's included in our Parks Master Plan and as attachment 1 to your agenda report. And we really do evaluate projects based on this set of criteria. It's very rare that there isn't an overlap between a lot of the criteria for any one project so that we can accomplish multiple objectives with each project. And additionally, with, as you're aware, with Prop 68 grant and other more recent funding streams, we have been very focused on opportunity-driven projects so that we can leverage resources and build partnerships to help us finance what is a very aggressive 10-year CIP. Attachment 2 is a list of our current projects and programs. It's not exhaustive. I fear I've left out a few important ones, but you can see that we have a lot going on and we're working really hard to deliver quality projects and programs for our community. I have a few staff here that are available to answer questions, and really this was just meant to be For information, and it's a living document. It will change from year to year as other opportunities or needs come up, but it's basically what we're working on right now. So that concludes my presentation. I know we have a commissioner that desperately needs to eat and drink in about a minute, so I'm happy to answer questions.
Commissioner Schatzel.
Thank you. Here I go again. This is nuts. This is nuts. This list is too big, necessarily so, for the staff size we have. All kudos and compliments to the staff, but that is a crazy big list. And to be a little more specific, and I see Jason's name is still up there, everything we do and have done recently, well, it requires more park maintenance. Joey Lopes Park, Heritage Oaks Park, we took the home run fence out of Bridgeway Lakes, which was not there in the first place because we wanted to have a big open space for the public. Now we're putting lights on River City tennis courts. All good, all terrific. We have the coffee shop now over at Heritage Oaks. Everything we do is requiring more maintenance. And I would suggest request of this commission, because the budget is now for 2 years, however that works. Now is a really good time to start working with staff and the commission on the next budget cycle. Start now, start at the next meeting. I would like to know, as examples, what is our ratio of full-time park worker to park acre compared to the national standard, the state standard, the local? What do they do in Woodland? What do they do in Davis? What do they do in Sacramento? What do our neighbors do? How many do they have? We have a lot of parks that fall in the category of mow and blow. You know, they're small. So you mow them, you edge them, you blow them, you clean them up. Maybe it's time for us to look at giving those to private sector landscape companies so our full-time people can go to Memorial and go to Bridgeway Lakes and go to Bright Park and all the other things that we're doing. So, and when you look at that list, almost everything on that list affects maintenance somewhere. So I would encourage the commission and staff, if it's okay, next meeting, let's put it on the agenda, because as a commission, I think we owe it to the council, we owe it to the staff to help get information, to help the staff convince the council to take a closer look at the resources that this department needs. We're not slowing down, right? I mean, we've talked about skateboard parks, we've talked about BMX tracks, we keep hearing about the pool. This weekend, I heard again, we need more softball fields. We're still growing, we're still expanding in what we're doing, and the maintenance resources have to keep pace. We don't want to get into a situation where the neighborhood around Triboli Park says, yeah, when the Tribolis took care of it, it was beautiful. Then the city took over and they don't have any money. We don't want to get there. And that has happened in my experience in the past, not here, somewhere else. So anyway, that's my overall reaction to that list. And it is a request of the commission and staff for the next budget cycle. Let's start talking about resources we need for our facilities now. Let's not wait. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner. I couldn't agree more. Our staff are overachievers. And we do continue just to congratulate them and continue to urge them on. So it would be, I think, a good conversation to have a structured conversation about capacity and priorities and how we make those kinds of choices. So I do know that that kind of analysis would be another task in terms of preparing something that would be informative so that we could react and respond to it meaningfully. So I'll leave it open to Tracy and Paul and Jason to sort that out and decide when they might be ready. to make such a presentation, if that is okay with you, Commissioner Schatzel. And Commissioner Ahmad, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I appreciate what Commissioner Schatzel is saying. I think it's probably more so because he's coming from having served as a director before in the Parks Recreation Department. But I completely agree with you as well, Suzanne, that this is also work for staff. So, I honestly am like, having served as long as I have on the commission, I'm caught off guard because I'm like, I assumed that like we as a commission were being presented, like I assumed a budget portion was being led by staff. So if like their needs are not being met, if there's a deficit in terms of like what needs to be done for parks, I'm sure there always is, but like I would love to know. I would love to know and know if it needs to be commission led, if it needs to be staff led, and wherever we can fill in the gaps, because I know certainly around town, folks love our parks and our services that we offer, and they're happy to get behind that. But I don't think there's there's definitely a knowledge gap. So yeah, the more I'm informed about the process, the better. But of course, I want this to be staff led as much as possible. So thank you.
I have a couple of other comments, but I wanted to give other commissioners an opportunity to speak first. Are there other comments on this topic? My last comment was that if we could have a productive conversation along these lines, I keep throwing out the ideas. I think different of us have ideas how to address some of these things. One of my ideas that I've discussed in the past with Tracy has been about having organizations of community volunteers adopt a park and participate in either trail maintenance or just picking up garbage or changing out the doggy bags or whatever. What possibilities are available through that, or perhaps using our streets program for job skills training in park maintenance and those kinds of things. So I'd love an opportunity to have those kinds of conversations. So again, I like to leave it up to Tracy to work with her staff on when they could have a presentation that they think would result in some meaningful conversation and discussion about the observations that Commissioner Schatzel has raised. Any other comments? Super. And Tracy has
I'll just say thank you for all of your feedback. Jason and I have already started the process of looking at our staffing historically at the city and how our parks and rec system has grown. Not just parks and trails, but we have buildings that didn't exist, as far back as 2008. We have public art installations that people don't always think about that we also have to maintain, and we keep getting more of those. We are involved in the open space cleanup and enforcement with the police department. We also provide oversight for all of the landscape and lighting district and community facility districts and the tree program. And so we're pulling together information already. I can't say we're going to have a super robust analysis by your next meeting, but we're on our way to developing some metrics in-house that we can certainly compare with some other agencies and national standards. And we have fewer staff today than we did back in 2008. And we know we have a system that's larger than in 2008. And we know we have an aging system. And we do have a midterm budget adjustment coming up. And there are a few items in there right now that are going to be workshopped with council in June and will come to the commission as part of some level of analysis that includes equipment needs in order for us to be able to do our job. We need some equipment, we need some training, and we definitely need some additional part-time or extra help staff. And as I'm sure you all know, staffing right now is also very challenging. I don't think we pay our extra help staff as much as people at Meals on Wheels are getting. So we definitely have some work there to do too. So we're on our way, and we'll bring something to the commission, at least to start the discussion. So thank you so much for your feedback.
Thank you. And Tracy, the next item on the agenda is the director's report, if you'd like to continue.
Yes, I have a few items, and then I know Paul Reyes has a few items to share as well. I did want to reiterate that we had a great Parks Make Life Better tour as part of the CPRS conference. I, along with one of our rec supervisors, Kaisa Miller, led the tour for the whole day, but our first stop was at Heritage Oaks Park, and it was a really nice event. And folks that were on the tour really enjoyed learning about the site and look forward to coming back when our master plan has actually been implemented. I also wanted to just highlight and thank those commissioners that were able to come out for the West Sac Play donation event. We held a little celebration at Summerfield Park on Friday, March 18th with West Sac Play, where they generously donated another $10,000 to the city to contribute towards our shade structure program. And they've got a number of events that are going to be coming up. So make sure to get information on those events to the commission. I want to share that the city's Earth Day event is on Saturday, April 16th at 10 a.m. at Bright Park. This is the first time we've been able to have an in-person Earth Day event in a few years. And as part of that event, we're also celebrating Arbor Day with the reading of a proclamation and planting trees on site with a local Girl Scout troop. Vice Chair Reed and potentially Chair Jans will be sharing in the reading of the proclamation. All commission members are invited to attend. I hope you can make it out. We're also, the Parks and Rec Department is also sponsoring an egg hunt on site. So Paul's team is overseeing that. And then before we have a chance to meet again, we will have had our first summer concert series concert for the fourth Thursday of the month. So that's going to be on May 26th at the barn. I am not sure about the band lineup for that evening. We will have more information out there, but want to make sure you put that on your calendars. And then I want to turn it over to Paul to share some information about the rec center and summer programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Just a few things. So good evening, Commissioners, Vice Chair Reed. With the rec center or the recreation division team, summer programs, camps and lessons, online registration will take place May 12th at 8:30 for online registrations. And that's for residents, and then non-residents at 12:30. Couple projects that we're just completing this week. We replastered the slide pool and the leisure pool, and it is in its final stage of curing right now. We're very, very excited. We also repaired some of the stairs to the slide. We got it repainted, resurfaced, and we're ready to go. We anticipate a huge summer this summer, and the recreation team is ready to go. Thank you.
And Paul, it's my
Yes.
understanding you're also hiring for the summer.
We are hiring. We're reaching out to a lot of the high school kids. We set up booths over there recently. We'll be doing it again this month. We went out to Sac State. And so, like Tracy said, it's been a challenge, but we're doing everything we can to get it promoted out to the newspaper, out to the schools, through our website, social medias. And so we hope to have a full load this year.
Super. Are there any questions for Tracy or Paul? I don't see any. And Commissioner Schatzel started us off with a request for an agenda item for our next meeting. Are there other recommendations or suggestions from commissioners about items to be placed on the next meeting's agenda? I don't see any. You sure?
Just going back to the resource fair for seniors, is that something that they're gonna probably put on in the future coming May? It looks like it was always scheduled in May. Would that be something that's gonna happen again anytime soon? That'd be nice to know about.
So we did have a mention before about a possible update on what's going on with livable communities and senior resource fair and those kinds of things. I don't know if that could be ready by the next commission meeting or a future agenda. So we'll take that as a request. And do we know whether there are firm plans for holding a congregate senior fair this year? We don't yet.
So Charlotte, you may have the date. I just texted Connie because it's not on our agenda, but we are not doing an in-person senior resource fair. We're having kind of a pickup event
Yeah.
for this year.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's still a little, especially given that population, of which I am one, we're still concerned about being out there socially, especially now that the masks have been lifted. So I appreciate that. And let us know if you get any future information on that. I'm sure we'd all appreciate it. Are there any other comments that any commissioner, Commissioner Horwitz?
Yeah, on that note, just curious if there's been any internal conversation about moving back to in-person or hybrid in-person telemeeting commission meetings in the future.
We ask this every meeting. Poor Tracy.
I am hopeful that we might be there for the June meeting. I know that we are waiting for the council meetings to resume in person. And I think that there might be a target of trying that in May, but I'm not exactly sure. We only have one meeting in May, so it might be delayed a little bit longer. So I guess the short answer is I don't know yet, but let's hope for June.
Okay, thank you. Any last comments or questions? Commissioner Chattel.
Wait, there we go. Thank you. It's nice to see everybody. I recently had 5-way heart bypass surgery.
Oh, wow. So
I very much appreciate the flowers from staff. And I'm glad I made it through this meeting. I thought I was going to get too tired and that would be that. But sorry. It's just nice to see everybody.
And we're happy to see you. And thank you. You've been very energetic throughout the whole meeting. So I don't think any of us suspected that you were recovering. But I think
I'm gonna go next door and just pass out here in a minute.
I hope you recover well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, is there anything else I need to do or say? Do I need a motion to adjourn?
We do need a motion.
Yeah, have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Commissioner Horwitz.
Second.
Commissioner Ahmad, second. Katie, could you call the roll, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Ahmad.
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Horwitz.
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reed.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all and be well.
Hi, everyone.